Cycling is complicated. Few could disagree with such a statement. The fast and frenetic racing is matched by the circus on wheels that follows it.
Quella che è la fase conclusiva, grazie.
Helping to deliver some clarity to those racing and watching from afar is a special team dedicated to essential race information.
Dorsale 101 va a vincere con il tempo di 6:22:13.
To learn more, inCycle went in search of the people behind Radio Tour.
So it's Landa Meana rider 101 from Movistar team who claims the victory.
I'm Isabella and I'm an interpreter by trade, and I've been working with the RCS, the organizer of Tirreno Adriatico. Well, first of all, Giro d'Italia and all the other races in Italy, and I've been doing it for about 9 years at this point. I work with the Radio Tour staff, but in fact in Italy we call it Radio Informazione, so let me call it Radio Info.
Radio Info is one of a number of radio channels that crackle into life when any top-level bike race begins. Not to be confused with the team radios used to discuss tactics between riders and their coaches, Radio Info is available to all and with a very simple mission.
We are giving information to all the convoy and other listeners too, as to how the stage is developing over time. It's a live feed, and we're saying what's happening from the very start of the stage till the finish.
Stage number 4 has officially started.
I work in the car with an Italian speaker, and I'm the English-French speaker. We get the information, how shall I say, from the road. We are in the race, but usually our car is placed in front of the bunch, and in case of a breakaway we are between the leading group and the main bunch. So we receive all our information from our motorbikes, who are telling us, well, first of all, how many, at the very beginning, how many riders are setting out, any non-starter, the time of the start, I mean very formal information. But then when we get into the race, we give the gap time. We say, in case of a breakaway, who are the rider in the breakaway.
At kilometer 3.5, 6 front riders lead by 35 seconds. Please take note, numbers 52 Duchesne, Groupama F2J.
In case of counter-attackers, we're saying when the counter-attack takes place and who are the riders who are counter-attacking, if there is a crash, who are involved in the crash, and so on. During the quiet part of the race, we give time gaps every 5 kilometers.
Last kilometer for the leading quartet. Dernier kilomètre, Landa, Maika, Aru, Hermans.
Of course, during hectic moments, we give much more frequent information about the gaps.
A mechanical for the GC leader. Bennett number 161 is counter-attacking. Bennett has joined the leading quartet, 5-man lead. 250 meters for Bennett. Now it's Maika at the front. Maika à la tête maintenant.
Listening in to Radio Info are a number of people both in the thick of the race and even hundreds of kilometres away from the action. As a result, the service has a different use for different people.
Radio Tour is important to get all the informations from the time gaps, from some dangerous situations in the road, or some emergencies that is very dangerous for the riders, and that we will tell, and that's why it's important that we listen to Radio Tour.
The gap goes down 3:15, 3:15.
for me is not only that we give information, it's also security for the riders. And when some rider crashed or have a puncture, also that information go much faster to the car, and in my eyes is a very important point.
The breakaway has started. The climb heading to the categorized summit of Fania.
The gap now 3 minutes.
Dernier écart, 3 minutes.
Race radio is one of the sources of information that we use to then get our commentary across to the public. Obviously, we've got the feed, we've got the pictures that everyone's watching at home, but also on our box here we often have race radio that comes through. We can bring things into commentary which you wouldn't necessarily see on the pictures. So often we will, you might hear that a certain rider has had a crash or a puncture. So we can relay that information back to the general public, to the viewers.
We are the General Secretariat for the RCS races. Basically what we do here is listen to the radio race feed, and my colleague Pino collects all the information that comes from, of course, radio race, and writes the race report, which I translate into English and French at the end of the day. Race radio is very important because we get to hear everything that's happening right when it's happening. Because we also have support from the live feed from television, but very often you don't get to have, you don't happen to have all the information live. We get access to both race radio and to the jury and management channels, so we know exactly what is going on right when it happens.
It's important to be clear, to be concise, to give the essential information for two reasons. Number one, not always the quality of the broadcast is so good because of a number of reasons, technical reasons, because of the landscape, because of a number of reasons. So I really have to try to be as clear as possible.
At K10 of racing, the time gap is 2 minutes and 40 seconds, 2:40.
And also because the channel needs to be used as little as possible, because any other information that might be even more urgent could need to be said. You see, so to be concise, this is the quality. Certainly a memorable moment was during Milano-Sanremo when it snowed. And the race direction had to make some very difficult decision, which eventually they did. That is stopping the race, having other riders stepping into their buses, drive them closer to the finish line, and then resume the race after 150 kilometers. When the race resumed, we had to be very specific in the information we were giving, repeating what the race director told us, being very clear, so that no misunderstanding could take place. That was really memorable.
Bene Ross, no, ma adesso aspettiamo.
On the one hand, there is the excitement every time you get in the car and the stage or the race starts. It's a great adventure every time. But at the same time, you get very focused.